This is financial advice. And I know every time I go off script, and when I say go off script, I mean that I'm not talking about the actual nuts and bolts of cars or the history of things. Anytime I go off script and I talk about the bigger world that affects all of us, I always get scolded in the comments. Stick to what you know about. Just talk about cars. Don't get political. That's my favorite one. Don't get political. Because I really don't get political. I don't endorse anything or anybody, right? But these days, everything gets filtered through that political thing. So no, I'm not qualified to talk about finances officially. And I can't give you official financial advice, but I'm going to give you common sense financial advice, something that you could put to work yourself. Because these days, you see the way things are going. You see the way, you can see the trend, okay? You can see the trend. It's not going to change. There's nothing that's going to change the trend. There's nothing that's going to put the genie back in the bottle, the inflation genie back in the bottle. And here's what you have to understand, because we're coming up on our selection process, where the next administration is going to be installed, okay? Whoever it is, I don't care who it is, doesn't matter who it is. Here's what you need to know. Whichever party ends up running the executive branch, whatever policies are put in place for relief are only going to add to the problem. So yes, stimulus, stimulus checks, this program, that program, give everybody $1,000, give everybody $10,000, give everybody $100,000. It doesn't make any difference. It's temporary relief. It's temporary relief because all of that just adds to inflation, and inflation is what we're dealing with. Now, it's important as car people that we talk about this, because our ability to enjoy our hobby, our sport, our business, when it comes to cars, motorcycles, in any aspect that you participate, it's all dependent on disposable income. You can't spend money on your vehicle until you've put food in your mouth, until you put a roof over your head, until you've paid the basic essentials of life. So it's all, everything that we do is based on disposable income. And when you have less and less disposable income because of inflation, well, it makes the participation in this stuff that much more difficult. Yesterday, I went to a Fast Cat event with our border collie, Winnie. And oh God, she's fast too, right? But I won't get into that right now. So we went to a dog event in town, a couple of miles away. And Kathy got there before I did with Winnie. I took the motorcycle, and on the way back, I noticed that one of the brake lights was out on a Jeep that she was driving. So I says, okay, I know I don't have any of those bulbs. We're gonna have to stop at an auto parts store and I'll pick up some bulbs for this thing. Now, I'm stocked up on 1157s because all of these old cars that I deal with all have 1157s. So when they started to become scarce and expensive, I just bought a ton of the damn things. So I've got them all over the place, but I don't have any of the 3157s that the Jeeps take. So I pull into an auto parts store and I go to the lighting shelf, an O'Reilly's, this is an O'Reilly's. I go to the lighting shelf and I'm looking for the 3157s and I find them. And the first package that I pick up, I'm like, oh my God, that's $13 and change for a pair of 3157s. So I look next to it and they have these, okay? And these are there for $9, okay? Or thereabouts. It doesn't make any difference. By the time I was done with tax, it cost me almost $10 for a pair of 3157 light bulbs. Now let's put this into perspective. Let's just say, for example, you have a job, an average paying job, or average to actually well-paying job. And after taxes, and after all of the expenses associated with your job, getting to and from, commuting, all of that stuff, right? Let's just say, for example, you bring home $20 an hour, okay? That's probably about average, reasonable, middle class. You bring home about $20 an hour. So now if you had to pay $10 for these two bulbs at the local auto parts store, that means that you had to work a half hour. You had to invest a half hour of your time, a half hour out of your life, of your labor to buy this package of bulbs. Or to break it down even further than that, one bulb, this light bulb right here, you had to work 15 minutes. 15 minutes out of your life was spent to acquire this light bulb. You see, you know, when you say, oh, well, yeah, it's $5 for a bulb, you know? Yeah, okay, yes, that's excessive. Especially if you're an old timer like me and you remember buying a whole box of these, 20 of them in there for like $3 for the box. Okay, so now it's $5 for this bulb. It took you 15 minutes working an average job after expenses to pay for this bulb. How about the rest of the car? Okay, how about the rest of one of these things? If it takes you 15 minutes to work for that, how much does it take to build a whole car? This is where creativity and alternative, looking at things from an alternative economic view, is really a survival aspect of what we do. Because you can't, right? You worked 15 minutes for that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because inflation, and here's what you need to understand about inflation, okay? Now, forget about what the eggheads tell you about inflation, because there's going to be all kinds of formulas and all kinds of explanations, and oh, inflation is this and inflation is that and inflation is the other thing. What inflation is too many dollars, or units of currency. It's not exclusive to our country or our money. It's too many dollars chasing fewer goods, too few goods. Here's inflation in a nutshell, okay? Why don't we use blades of grass as a medium of exchange? Oh, obviously because they have absolutely no value whatsoever. Because as soon as you trim the blades of grass, you know, so you've got your currency, more grows up behind it. So in order to trade the value of blades of grass for this light bulb, how many dump trucks full of blades of grass would you need to equal the value of this bulb? You see what I'm saying? Because the unit of currency we use, the dollar, isn't anchored to anything, there's nothing to stop them from printing more. And this is what I was saying before, is that no matter what happens in this next process, this next, selection, I've been down the rabbit hole for 30 years as far as this stuff goes, so I don't want to hear about free and fair and everything else. It's nonsense, and you know it's nonsense, but that's besides the point. Delusions like this are necessary to keep society together. That's as far as I'll go with that. Regardless of the results, there's nothing, the only way that there could be any relief for the hard-working people of this country is some sort of stimulus, some sort of freer or easier monetary policy, which only means that more dollars are borrowed into existence and they have to be paid off, and that equals inflation. You see what I'm saying? There's no limit to the amount that can be printed, and so therefore they have no value. So let's talk about money for a second, okay? So I'm a hard asset guy, a hard money guy, meaning that to me, money has to be tangible. You have to be able to put your hands on it, okay? I've been in metals, precious metals now since, well, I'll tell you what, and here's my track record, right? So help me, this is the truth. If you want to see the very day that I got into metals, it's easy. Take the 30-year gold chart, go all the way back and find the lowest point, the lowest dollar on the gold chart. I believe it was $271. I could be off by $1 or $2. It doesn't make any difference. Go find that day, because that is the very day that I actually got into the market. And right now on that, I'm up like, I don't know, 500 and something percent. Okay. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, but the overall trend is up. I was buying silver at $3.75 an ounce at that point too. I don't even know what it is today, but I started buying it $3 and change. So essentially, I'm a hard money guy. There's zero counterparty risk to a hard asset. And it doesn't have to be gold or silver. It just has to be a hard asset, something that's tangible, that doesn't deteriorate, that has an infinite shelf life. That is a hard asset. So that's where I put my faith, okay, in hard assets, my monetary faith. Talk about counterparty risks, everybody right away they talk about cryptos, right? Because cryptos have no, quote, counterparty risk. And I am in cryptos because I see cryptos as a fantastic speculative asset. I know that a small fortune can be made off of cryptos. Some people buy and hold, and you got to take the ride up, and it will flame up at some point. Is that the right phrase? Melt up. It'll melt up at some point. I know this. The same way like the Dow is in the process, or the equities markets are in the process of melting up. But while cryptos are a fantastic speculative asset, you can't consider them to be money because they don't actually store value. They're not tangible. You can't touch them. And the thing about them not having any counterparty risk is actually it's nonsensical, because cryptos have more counterparty risk than any other possible asset. Who are the counterparties? Oh, geez, start with a phone company, start with the satellites, about the places that will and won't accept it. All of the different, there are so many like steps between you, or obstacles, barriers between you and the actual currency that a crypto would represent, and the currency doesn't even exist. It's just a digit, it's just a figment, it's an electronic imprint. Am I down on cryptos? No, as I said, I'm in cryptos. They're an awesome speculative asset. Do I consider cryptos to be money? No, I'm not an idiot. They're not money. It's a digital representation. It's something to speculate with. Money is something that you can hold in your physical hand. Like dollars? Well, the problem with dollars is you go back to the blade of grass standard. There is no limit to the number of dollars that can be printed. The same way there's no limit to the number of blades of grass that can grow. Okay? They have exactly the same relationship to each other. Other tangible assets, real estate. Okay, well here's the problem, real estate. We talked about this before, how you don't actually ever own it. You have a title to it, you have a deed to it, but you don't actually own it, and don't pay your property taxes or have some judgment against you or deal in some eminent domain situation, and you lose it. It doesn't even exist. But that's not even the absurdity of real estate. The absurdity of real estate is that when you're talking about houses, I'm not talking about farmland or anything like that, but you're talking about houses. If you go back, let's say 100 years ago, right? Maybe a little bit further than that, but you go back to before, or you go back to when we still had a standard, like we used a gold standard, we used a silver standard. If you go back to that and you said to somebody in that period of time, hey, this new house is going to cost you X amount of dollars, and 5 years from now, it's going to be more. In 10 years from now, it's going to be more. Well, they would laugh at you because it's absurd. How could this house that over the next 5 or 10 or 20 years, whatever it is, how could it possibly go up? It's going to deteriorate. It's going to need a roof. It's going to need insulation, or it's going to need repairs. There's finishings are going to deteriorate. Everything's going to deteriorate. The plumbing is going to deteriorate. Things are going to deteriorate. Just exactly the same way a car. If you go and you buy a new car, for somebody to say, yes, buy this new car and 5 years from now it'll be worth more, 10 years from now it'll be worth even more than that. Well, that's absurd. You lose what, like 30 or 40% is the second you drive it off the showroom floor. And then from that point on, it's a deteriorating asset. It's actually a liability. Of course, there are exceptions. You get your collector cars, right? And then, of course, you get your classic cars, which have reached the bottom of the depreciation scale. They can't be worth any less than scrap. And then they start to climb back up again because of rarity, desirability, all of those other factors. But again, see, it's like the idea that your house is worth more every year is absurd, because your house deteriorates every year and it needs more maintenance. It needs work. The doors start to squeak. You see what I'm saying? It's like the idea in an honest money world, an honest money society, that your house could be worth more as it deteriorates is just, it's idiotic. But the only system we know, the only system that we've ever grown up in this country, and I'm speaking for my generation, the generation previous, and all of the generations since, this is the only reality that we've ever known, right? But it's not an accurate representation of what the true value of something is. It's all based on debt, right? And the multiplication of debt, because the system that we have exists solely on debt. We have a debt-based currency, a debt-based society. That's it. And this is the normal to us, but it's not real. What is real? So, again, see, I'm not qualified to talk about assets. I can just tell you what I do, right? When it comes to financial instruments, like metals, like crypto. I can tell you what I do and have my perspective on it, but I can't give you advice on what you should do. But when you get away from the world of the actual, things you're supposed to be qualified to talk about, and you talk about tangible items, like this light bulb. Now, this bulb is $5 today. It'll be $6, let's say 6 months from now. What is this bulb going to be 3 years from now, right? $10, $20? Will it even be available? Where is this made? Will we still have good trade with the place that this is made in? Do you see what I'm saying? There's a mystery item. But it's a really, in the grand scheme of things, it's a insignificant item. 3 years ago, when we built Slag Hammer over here, I welded this whole car together using flux core wire, okay? And I was paying, this is 3 years ago, so this is post, pandemic, all right? So all of that nonsense. And it was still during supply chain goofiness, but 3 years ago is when we built that car. And I was buying my flux core wire, my rolls of flux core wire over at Harbor Freight. And I remember very distinctly paying after tax, right, $20 a roll. It was like 19 and change a roll at the time we were building this car. And I remember saying to myself, this is absurd. The price has doubled from when I was buying flux core before, let's say 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Price is like doubled, because it was like $10, $12 a roll. Then after tax, it was 20 a roll. So put that in perspective now, $20 a roll times 5 would be $100. So a $100 bill bought me 5 rolls. When we were building this car, bought me 5 rolls of flux core. Oh, I just went to Home Depot today. Not Home Depot, Harbor Freight today, because I got to do some welding. And I bought some flux core. And I bought 4 rolls of this, and after taxes, it was $98. So just in the last 3 years since we bought that car, this has gone from, do the math, all right, it's gone from 5 rolls for $100 to 4 rolls for $100. That's what inflation is, and it's not going to turn around. This is not going to be cheaper 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. There might be price fluctuations, there might be sales, there might be specials, and so on and so forth. But the trajectory of this is up, because the more dollars that are borrowed into existence to keep the system afloat, the more of those blades of grass it's going to take to purchase this tangible item. So what do? Now, I don't buy one roll, I buy 4. So I took a $100 bill out of my pocket and I bought 4 rolls of flux core, knowing that if I wait, let's say, till the next time I need it, it could go up even more, and I won't even be able to buy those 4 rolls with my $100 bill. See, the currency is worth less all the time. Tangible items are costing more all the time. This is inflation. If your business or your hobby depends on things like welding wire or well, anything, any of these expendables that we take for granted, okay, well, I got to buy oil, I got to buy welding wire, I got to buy acetylene, I got to buy whatever it happens to be. It's going to take more of those slips of paper in your pocket to purchase them 6 months from now, a year from now, than it is now. And in my opinion, I think the inflationary deal is only just getting started. And I'm not going by my opinion. I'm going by historical standards. And that's looking back over economies for the last thousands of years. They're all different parts of the world. They all follow the same basic trajectory, and that's the one that we're on right now. Regardless of what happens in the election, you have to understand that the government, the monetary institutions, financial institutions, consists of bureaucracies that their interest is in their own survival, not yours. It's lip service to say, yes, we're here to take care of the people. No, they're not taking care. No, they got to take care of themselves first. They have to guarantee their own existence first before they can take care of you. And the less you know about how money actually works, and the less you know about how financial institutions, and the less you know about how it actually works, the better off they are, the bigger they grow. And this just doesn't stop. The numbers, okay, listen. If you're a normie and you believe the numbers, the statistics, okay, this jobs report and that inflation report, if you believe those things, more power to you. But most people are starting to wake up now and they're realizing this is ridiculous. They'll put this number out and then like a month later they revise it, and it's doesn't even resemble what the original number was, but the markets all reacted to the first number. I stopped paying attention. I tell you when I stopped paying attention to numbers, government numbers. It had to be 40 years ago when they were talking about inflation, because inflation was a thing back then. And they were like, because it looked like inflation was getting crazy. It was getting crazy. And then they revised it so that they excluded food and energy from inflation. Food and energy, that's the core of everybody's existence. Yeah, take that out of the equation, right? So they redefine what inflation was. It's meaningless. They say it's 3%, it's 5%. Go to the supermarket, right? Go to the supermarket, add up all of your bills, your energy-related bills and your food-related bills. You're talking about 20, 30% inflation. That's the real number, not whatever they say. I have no idea what they're even saying these days. What is it? Did they say it was like 4%, 3%? I don't know, target 2%? Nonsense. 20 and 30%. Inflation, okay, so we're not talking about just tangible goods. We're not talking about just, food, energy, including those things. But I mean, your insurance bill, having your lawn cut, whatever it happens to be, it's all of those things too. The actual numbers are nowhere near what the advertised numbers are. It's like the whole recession thing. Are we going to be in a recession? Oh, there's going to be a bad recession. It's going to be a hard landing. It's going to be a soft landing. We're not in recession yet. We're almost in recession. But it's because they changed the definition of what a recession is. We've been in a recession for years now. But they keep changing the definition of it. And then erasing the old. But let's not even go there. I won't even go there. So, what is a recession? What is inflation? What are these things? What are these official numbers? What's this joblessness? Jobs report. How many people now are working 2 and 3 jobs? The employment has gone up. It's all craziness. Invest in tangible assets. And I'm not talking gold or silver or anything like that, right? Because I'm not qualified to talk about that stuff. But invest in the tangible assets that you need to keep your world going. If you can, you see oil on sale. Like I just caught some oil on sale for $3. Transmission fluid on sale for $3 a quart. I just bought all of it, because I'm saving like $1.50 or so over the the normal price for that particular ETF. So I'm just going to buy all of it because it's not going to be cheaper tomorrow, or a month from now, or a year from now. And some things just absolutely disappear because there isn't enough, especially when you're talking about older cars or motorcycles or anything like that. There isn't enough of it in common use for it to be supplied en masse. So certain things you buy when you can and buy as much of it as you can afford. It literally is money in the bank. It's a quart of oil that you can buy on sale is a real thing. The money that's in your pocket is an imaginary thing, right? It's not based on any standard. It's not based on anything tangible or that you could touch, and there's no discipline to it. At least a quart of oil is always a quart of oil, and it has its use as a quart of oil. A dollar bill is a piece of paper, and it's only worth what that piece of paper is worth. From a tangible standpoint, everything else is smoke and mirrors. Everything else is an illusion of value, an illusion of wealth. Buy the things you need as you can afford them. If you've got extra money, buy those things. Percentage-wise, you'll do better than you will in any of the conventional investments. I'm not talking about speculative investments, but you know what I'm talking about, okay? You'll do better buying stuff like welding wire and light bulbs and oils and stuff like that. Paint. I was just over at Home Depot, right? So this stuff, this Rust-Oleum paint, I've been using this my whole life, okay? And this stuff, I was paying, for the longest time, it was like between $6 and $8, right? And I'm talking about recently, like around 2020 or thereabouts. $6 to $8 for the quart. $16 a quart. $16 a quart right now. Buy paint. If it's something you need, if it's something that you whatever business, whatever thing you're involved in, if it requires paint, go buy the stuff now and buy as much of it as you can afford. It is money in the bank. I've talked about this for a long time now. I hope you got something out of that. I know I'm not qualified to give financial advice, but that is good financial advice. Those slips of paper in your pocket or those imaginary digits that are in your accounts are worth less and less and less and less every single day. Every time there's a policy that either stimulates the economy or the rate cuts, and every time that happens, every time you hear them talk about loosening monetary policy, creating more money, okay, it means that the money in your pocket is worth less. And the further down this path we go, the quicker it's going to accelerate. Just like this stuff, from $8 to $16 in like no time at all. I'll see you tomorrow.